The silence of deep space was more than silence. It was emptiness. It was the kind of quiet that made you forget your own voice, your heartbeat, your name. Lieutenant Rin Talvek floated alone inside the dead shell of the Zerun's vow, drifting somewhere past the edges of known space, far from any rescue lane or supply beacon. Her oxygen levels were stable for now. Her food rations would last 2 more weeks. But her hope? That had already run out. They left her. Not in the chaos of war, not by mistake, but on purpose. She could still hear the last words of Captain Varn in her ear, cold and deliberate. "You're compromised. You stay." Then the airlock sealed, the engines roared, and the rest of the crew vanished with the warship, leaving her behind. They believed she had been infected with a nanovirus from the alien derelict they boarded hours earlier. Protocol said quarantine. But what they did wasn't protocol. It was execution. The worst part? She wasn't even infected. "I hope you bastards rot," she whispered to the stars, her voice barely a scratch in the helmet. The ship was dark, powerless except for emergency lights and the backup life support system, which she'd rigged by hot wiring parts of the med bay and what was left of the drone maintenance bay. She had no comms, no jump drive, no distress beacon. Just an old combat knife, a pistol with 8 rounds, and the weight of betrayal pressing down harder than the vacuum outside. She wasn't scared of dying. That wasn't the human way, not anymore. Humans had come too far for fear to be their master. But being forgotten, being thrown away like a piece of contaminated trash, burned deeper than any wound she'd ever taken. Days passed, then a week. She counted time by the flicker of the emergency lights and the number of protein bars she had left. Her muscles ached from the artificial gravity fluctuations. Her mind started to play tricks, hearing voices, seeing movement in the corners of her eyes. Sometimes she thought she heard the war drums of Earth's fleet in the distance, felt the deep thrum of a human dreadnought's reactor. But each time it was just the metal creaking, until the day it wasn't. It started as a faint vibration, not from inside the ship but out in the void. She pressed her ear against the cold hull and froze. A rhythmic hum. Familiar. Too familiar. Engines. Human engines. Her breath hitched. No. It couldn't be. The nearest friendly system was weeks away, and even if someone had picked up her signal, she hadn't sent one. She ran to the broken comms console, hoping for anything. A flicker, a crackle, a word. Nothing. But the sound grew louder. Closer. Then, outside her viewport, the stars warped. A shimmer of light broke through the endless blackness, and then, roaring like a beast out of legend, a shape burst from a wormhole, tear, huge, angular, painted in the war gray and crimson of Earth's vengeance, a Terran assault-class warship. She fell to her knees, eyes wide, heart racing. No way! The TSF Revenger. She knew that ship. Every human in the galaxy did. It was the same warship that had wiped out 3 alien fleets in the Harvan Uprising, the one captained by Admiral Jorn Vex, the man who once said, "If you leave one human behind, you better pray I don't find out." A comms signal finally crackled to life in her helmet, rough and broken. "Unidentified Terran survivor. This is the TSF Revenger. We've got you. Sit tight." Rin didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just gritted her teeth and whispered, "Took you long enough." The docking clamp hissed and locked into place with a thunderous clank that echoed through the broken frame of the Zerun's vow. Rin stood frozen in front of the airlock, her pistol gripped tight, though she knew it wouldn't matter if this was a trick. But something in her gut told her it wasn't. Not this time. Not after all this time. She braced as the airlock doors groaned and finally opened. Blinding white lights from the warship spilled into her dim cabin, silhouetting the armor-clad forms that stepped through. 5 Terran Marines entered, weapons raised. But not at her. They scanned the room, moving with clockwork precision until one of them stopped in front of her. He removed his helmet, revealing a scarred, weather-beaten face. His eyes narrowed. "Lieutenant Rin Talvek?" he asked. She nodded, still clutching the pistol. "I'm Sergeant Malco. Admiral Vex sent us personally. You're safe now." Rin blinked hard. The words didn't sound real. Why did he send you?" she asked, her voice raspier than she remembered. Malco's jaw tensed. "Because your squad commander logged your death, claimed you were infected. Vex didn't buy it." She lowered the pistol, her arm suddenly too tired to hold it. "Good," she muttered, "because I'm going to kill that bastard." Malco didn't smile. "You won't have to. We've got him in chains already. Your black box didn't match his report. Vex wants your statement. You're not just a survivor, Talvek. You're a key witness in a court-martial." They helped her into a med pod back on the Revenger, and for the first time in weeks, Rin felt warmth. Clean air. A heartbeat beside her that wasn't her own. A sense that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't going to die in the dark after all. But as they closed the medbay doors behind her, the relief didn't last long. She noticed the whispering among the crew, the looks. Something else was going on aboard this ship. Something that had nothing to do with her. It was 2 days before Admiral Jorn Vex finally visited her. She was out of the med pod, though still weak. He came alone, no guards, just his dark uniform and presence filling the room like a shadow. "You look like hell," he said without humor. "You should see the other guy," she replied dryly. Vex didn't sit. He just folded his arms, watching her. "You were left for dead," he said, "and yet here you are, in one piece, not a trace of the infection." "Because there was no infection," she said flatly. "That derelict ship was clean. I checked it myself. Varn panicked when the nav system glitched and decided to dump the liability. That's all I was to him." Vex's lip curled in disgust. "He'll answer for it. That's a promise." Rin leaned forward. "But that's not why you came, is it?" "No," Vex admitted. "I came because of what your helmet cam picked up, just before they left you." He tossed a datapad onto her bed. She tapped it, and the video began to play. Static, then her own voice, panicked, arguing with Varn. But then, there. Just as he turned to leave, the camera picked up something outside the ship. Not a reflection, not a glitch, movement. In the void. Rin's skin went cold. "That wasn't a hallucination?" "No," Vex said, "it wasn't. Whatever you saw out there, it followed your ship back to this region of space. We lost a scout vessel 3 hours ago. No distress call, no debris." "Something's out there," she said, her voice low. "Yes," Vex replied grimly. "And it might be hunting survivors, or warships, or just us." Rin sat back, eyes distant. "They left me to die, and it found me instead." Vex nodded. "And now it's found us." The hum of the Revenger's engines was steady, deep, and soothing. A stark contrast to the tension that coiled inside Rin like a living thing. She sat alone in her assigned cabin now, wrapped in a loose-issue thermal jacket with Earthfleet's insignia stitched on the shoulder. It still smelled of disinfectant and burnt ozone, like every Terran warship she'd ever served on. But the comfort was hollow. Her mind wasn't in the room. It was still out there, drifting in the black, staring into that strange flicker beyond the hull. The thing that had watched her. The thing that moved when stars shouldn't. She hadn't told Vex everything. Not yet. They thought they were tracking a new alien threat, maybe even a ghost vessel that picked off the weak. But she remembered something different, something colder. The shape in the void hadn't looked alien. It hadn't looked like anything she'd seen on mission briefs or xenology scans. It had looked like a shadow of a Terran ship, but twisted, warped, like it had been stretched through the fabric of space and reassembled all wrong. And it had moved like it was alive. Rin tapped the screen in front of her and pulled up the camera feed again. She watched the same 3 seconds, frame by frame. Right after the Zaren's vow departed. Right when the engine flare dimmed. There, in the top left corner, just barely above the hull, was that shimmer. And this time she noticed something else. Eyes, 2 of them. Red. Glowing faintly. Not human, but somehow aware. A knock at her door made her jump. She quickly shut the feed and called out, "It's open." Sergeant Malco stepped inside, frowning. "We've reached the wreckage of the scout ship," he said. "You might want to see this." Minutes later, Rin stood on the bridge next to Vex and his command staff, staring at a hollow display of what was left of the TSF halberd. Or rather, what wasn't. "It's gone," she said quietly. "No," Vex replied, voice tight. "It's erased. There's no debris, not a hull breach, no black box signal, just residue." The screen zoomed in on a faint, bluish smear in the darkness. "Radiation?" Rin asked. "No," said the science officer. "Not exactly. It's spatial distortion residue, like something moved through here and folded the space around it, imploded the structure clean through the 4th dimension." She swallowed. "You mean time?" "Maybe. Or gravity. Or both." Vex looked over at her. "You said it moved like it was alive. What else aren't you telling me?" She hesitated, then sighed. "When I was drifting, just before you found me, I think it tried to communicate. I heard something." Vex's eyes narrowed. "What kind of something?" "A voice, but not out loud, in my head, like it touched my thoughts." He stepped closer. "What did it say?" She looked down, her fists clenched. "You were not meant to survive." The room went silent. "You think it let you live?" Vex asked slowly. Rin nodded. "Maybe. Or maybe it wasn't finished." That was when the alarms sounded. The lighting dimmed to emergency red. Across the bridge, crew scrambled into action as the ship's AI crackled through the speakers. "Unidentified object approaching from aft quadrant. Velocity, impossible. Trajectory, unknown." "Visuals!" Vex barked. The main screen flickered, then froze. Static, then flickered again. For half a second, the whole bridge went deathly quiet. And then it appeared. Not a ship, not a being, a hole, a gash in space itself spiraling open like torn cloth, and from within it, something began to emerge, tall, dark, pulsing with energy. Its shape was both angular and organic, constantly shifting, as though unsure whether it was machine or monster, and on its surface, glowing red eyes, hundreds of them. Malco drew in a breath. "Is that human metal?" Rin's heart stopped. Parts of the thing were made of old Earth fleet hull plating, real pieces of Terran ships, fused into its skin like armor or trophies. Vex turned to her, face grim. "Lieutenant Talvek, I hope you're ready to face what followed you back." Rin took a deep breath and squared her shoulders. "I didn't come back just to survive. I came back to fight." The bridge of the TSF Revenger trembled as the void-born thing completed its emergence. Space rippled around it like disturbed water, and the warship's shielding flickered despite being at full power. No one on board had ever seen anything like it, and most of them had faced death more times than they could count. But this wasn't war. This wasn't tactics. This was something else, something ancient, something wrong, Rin stared at the monstrosity through the viewport. It didn't make sense. Its surface was shifting, never the same shape twice. Human steel merged with alien bone, broken antennas, scorched hull fragments. A gun barrel from a Terran dreadnought jutted from one shoulder like a decaying horn. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't alive. But it was aware. The red eyes moved, not blinking, watching. "You said it spoke to you," Vex said, stepping beside her. "Can you feel it now?" Rin tried to answer, but her words caught in her throat. Her heart thudded wildly. Sweat dripped down her spine. The air around her felt heavier. Then she heard it again. Not a voice, not a sound. Just a thought, slithering through her brain like a whisper from inside her skull. "You brought them. More minds to unravel. More flesh to rewrite." She stumbled back. "It's speaking again. To me." "Tell it to go to hell," Vex growled. But it was already too late. The ship's lights surged. Consoles flickered. One of the officers slammed his fist into the side of his control panel. "Sir, it's hacking our systems. No known signal, no radio waves. It's using quantum resonance." "Kill the signal," Vex ordered. "We can't. There is no signal. It's just happening." One of the crew screamed and collapsed. Blood leaked from his nose and ears. Another dropped to his knees, sobbing uncontrollably. "It's in their minds," Rin gasped. "It's attacking through thought, through memory." Vex looked to the AI officer. "Initiate psychic dampening field. Full strength." The AI responded instantly. A deep pulse thrummed through the floor, like a pressure wave inside Rin's skull. The pain receded, just a little. Enough to breathe again. The creature didn't like that. It screamed, not with sound, but with light. A flash of pure, burning red burst from its core and hit the Revenger dead on. The shields held for a fraction of a second, then buckled like tissue paper. An explosion rocked the rear of the ship. Panels burst, sparks flew, a fireball tore through Deck 7. "Direct hit on the engine struts," someone shouted. "Shields are down." "Redirect auxiliary power," Vex roared. "Bring us around. I want a firing solution on that thing now." But Rin wasn't looking at the screens anymore. She was looking out the viewport, at the eyes. They weren't random. They were focusing. On her, locking onto her like she was the only thing that mattered. She suddenly realized something terrifying. "It's not attacking the ship," she whispered. "It's attacking because I'm on it." Vex turned sharply. "You're sure?" She nodded, pale. "It followed me. I was the test, and now I'm the invitation." Vex's face twisted in a rare emotion. Fear. "We need to get you off the ship." Rin raised her head. "And lead it where?" "Back to Earth? To a colony? Number, I've already played that part once. I'm not running again." Vex stared at her. "What are you saying?" "I need to talk to it," she said. "Absolutely not. It's already in my mind, Admiral. If we don't understand what this thing is, there won't be a fleet left to fight it. Let me in. Give me a direct interface link. Let me show it what we are." "You want to negotiate with a goddamn mind leech made of dead ships?" "No," she said, voice steady. "I want to scare it." For a moment, silence fell over the bridge. Then Vex nodded. "Give her a neural uplink," he barked. "Full armor, containment safeguards, and prep the railguns. If it twitches, we rip it apart." As the techs rushed to follow orders, Rin turned back to the viewport, locking eyes with the creature once more. "You tried to leave me to die," she muttered. "But I came back human, and that's your mistake." The neural uplink rig was unlike anything Rin had used before. They called it the Mind Bridge, a classified prototype pulled from deep within the Earth Fleet's black archives, rumored to be built using technology reverse-engineered from early alien wrecks. Until today, she hadn't believed any of those rumors. Now, with the helmet sliding down over her head, She felt every one of them become real. The armor encasing her was a hybrid shell of psychic insulation, hard light reinforcement, and internal stabilizers, humming like a living machine. Cables snaked from the back of her suit into the floor, leading down to the ship's core AI hub. "You're linked into our deepest firewalls," the technician told her, checking the harness. "This feed will touch the alien's field the moment you connect. If it tries to override you, we'll kill the signal in under 3 seconds. Rin nodded, her breathing shallow. "And if it gets in faster than that?" she asked. "Then may God help you," he said quietly. Vex's voice crackled over the intercom. "You've got one chance, Lieutenant. Whatever this thing is, find its weakness." Rin closed her eyes and gave the command. "Engage the bridge." The world fell away. No, not colors. Emotions flooded her senses. Not sounds, but memories. They weren't hers. They weren't anyone's. They were raw echoes. Terror, hunger, agony, confusion. She felt them ripple through her mind like oil through water, trying to find the cracks. Then, like a tunnel being dug through her skull, she felt a presence enter. "You seek to understand, but you are not prepared." It didn't speak in words. It spoke in intention, an overwhelming pressure of meaning that bent her will like a storm bends trees. "I'm not here for understanding," she thought back. "I'm here to stop you. You cannot stop what you cannot comprehend. I am not one. I am many. I am memory. I am hunger. I am what your kind discarded." Images flashed through her mind. Ships lost in deep space. Terran scouts gone dark. Black boxes reporting anomalies before cutting to silence. The thing had been collecting them, feeding on them, becoming them. "You're made of us," she realized. "Of the dead. You're a graveyard pretending to be a god." It didn't like that. The pressure increased. Pain lanced through her head. Her fingers twitched inside the gauntlets. The suit hissed and sealed tighter to stabilize her vitals. "I am beyond flesh. I am evolution. You cling to matter, but I am purpose." "You're a parasite," she shot back, teeth clenched. "You feed on fear, on thought. You twist what you touch because you can't create. You can only consume." Then she pushed. She didn't know where the strength came from. Some deep, buried place inside her. Maybe it was anger. Maybe it was the isolation she'd endured. Maybe it was simply the human refusal to surrender. She opened the door inward, not to the creature, but to herself. She showed it Earth, not the weakness, the rage. She showed it the Terran fleet above Mars during the Oxorian siege, the burning skies over Vega 4, the trench fighting on Dustworld, the last stand at Europa where 20 Marines held the line against an entire alien army with nothing but knives and spite. She showed it what humans do when they're cornered. The presence recoiled, confused. It had known hunger, it had known silence, but it had never known defiance so primal, so blood-stained and bright. She forced her thoughts into it like knives. "You chose the wrong species." The thing screamed. Reality around the Revenger bent sharply, like a reflection twisting on a broken mirror. Its shape pulsed erratically. For the first time, it retreated, drawn backward into its own rift. The link shattered. Rin collapsed to the floor of the neural pod, gasping, her vision swimming. The techs pulled her free. She could hear alarms in the background, voices yelling about energy spikes, but all she could focus on was Vex leaning over her. "You did it," he said, breathless. "No," she whispered. "I pushed it back. That's not the same." The creature was gone, but not dead. It knew her now. It had tasted what humanity was, and it would be back. Rin's body still ached from the neural feedback as the medics scanned her for brain hemorrhaging and neurological degradation. The results were within survivable limits, as the chief medic had put it. She didn't bother asking what unsurvivable looked like. Her hand still shook. Her vision still blurred when she blinked. But she was awake, conscious, and more importantly, alive. In the observation chamber, Admiral Vex stood in front of the transparent wall, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the swirling patch of space where the void creature had disappeared minutes ago. The area looked normal. Cold, black, still, but the sensors said otherwise. "Residual distortion still active," said the AI officer. "Gravitational pulse fluctuations every 13.2 seconds. It's not just gone, sir. It's lurking." Rin entered slowly, limping slightly. Vex turned his head, gave her a hard look, then nodded once. "You gave it something to chew on," he said. "Yeah," Rin replied, her voice hollow, "but it didn't choke." He gestured to the projection of the creature's last moments, its form collapsing inward, eyes extinguishing like dying stars. "We've never seen anything fight back like that. That was rage. You didn't just resist it. You heard it." Rin leaned against the wall, wiping sweat from her brow. "Because I showed it what it's not. It pretends to be intelligence, but it's just collection. It copies. It remembers. But it doesn't create. It's a parasite on the remains of what it consumes. That's its weakness. It doesn't understand us. Not truly." "Then maybe we can win," Vex said. She looked at him. "Number because it's learning." The room fell silent. "It didn't come here randomly," she continued. "It didn't follow me just because I survived. It followed because I resisted. That was new to it, and dangerous. It wants to know what we are now. It wants to become what it can't understand." "You think it'll attack again?" he asked. She nodded. "Not just this ship. Not just me. Next time it won't try to break a mind. It'll try to break a world." Vex grunted. "Then we stop waiting." Within hours, the Revenger was under full lockdown and mobilization. Combat drills were run twice an hour. Engineering crews prepped for emergency fold jumps. The railguns were loaded with hybrid payloads. Half tungsten, half experimental psychic inhibitors harvested from fringe tech labs Earthfleet didn't officially admit existed. Rin spent her recovery time poring over old distress signals and long-lost mission logs. She noticed the pattern now, how every ship that disappeared left behind a similar psychic imprint, an echo of fear and confusion. Most dismissed them as technical failures or rogue AI shutdowns. They weren't. They were infections, and it was spreading. One message in particular chilled her blood. A broken fragment of a long-dead colony scout called the Winter Gale. The recording only lasted 6 seconds. "We saw it watching us. The sky blinked. Then we weren't alone. They remember our thoughts. They wear our pain. Oh God, it looks like..." The message ended in static. But that last part, that final moment, stuck in her mind. "It looks like what?" Rin wasn't sure she wanted to know. Vex summoned her to the war room later that evening. The room was quiet, lit only by the shifting star maps above the central table. Around them, Fleet Command officers stood tense, grim-faced. "We're putting together a task force," Vex announced. "This thing's been targeting deep space fringe sectors, but always around abandoned Terran tech. Wrecks, stations, derelicts, places we left behind." "Graveyards," Rin murmured. "Exactly. We're not waiting for it to strike again. We're hunting it, with you on point." She looked up. "Me? You're the only one who's survived mental contact and stayed intact, and you've pissed it off. That gives us one advantage." Rin exhaled. "It knows me." Vex nodded. "And you know it." She looked back at the star map. The void was vast, cold, brutal, and somewhere out there, it waited. "You sure this isn't a suicide mission?" she asked. Vex gave a thin smile. With Earth on the line, I think suicide might be the only kind of mission left. The fleet gathered near the edge of the Perseus Fringe, a place so distant and dim that even starlight arrived tired. 6 ships made up the strike group: 3 Terran war cruisers, 2 support frigates, and the spearhead, TSF Revenger. The fleet's mission was clear, though no one said it aloud. Find the graveyard. Destroy whatever lived in it. Rin stood on the bridge, armor sealed, neural dampeners active, and pulse steady. Barely. Her presence was a tactical asset now, according to command. Her mind was a lure, a trigger. She hated how right they were. Admiral Vex approached from behind, his gaze fixed on the swirling map before them. This system, Valtros 9. No one's been there since the early AI wars. One of the old orbital stations malfunctioned and took half the colony with it. Another Terran ruin, Rin said, her voice flat. Another place where it can feed. The fleet dropped out of fold space just beyond the dead planet's orbit. The darkness felt heavier here. Even the stars seemed afraid to shine too brightly. And there it was, floating in orbit, silent, waiting. The cradle of glass, once a research hub, now a shattered relic, its outer rings cracked and drifting like broken halos, human-made but twisted, too symmetrical in some places, too jagged in others. Something had touched it, warped it, like fingers pressing into soft clay. Picking up faint energy pulses, the comms officer said, and psychic radiation, same frequency from the creature's last appearance. Rin stepped forward. It's here, watching, listening. Vex nodded grimly. Time to talk back. He gave the order. Railguns locked on target. Pulse cannons began charging. Drones launched to scan the area. Small, fast, expendable. They zipped toward the derelict station in swarms. At first, silence. Then, one by one, the drones died. No explosions, no interference. They simply vanished from existence. Not even a flicker of light. God damn it, Vex muttered. All hands to battle stations. That's when it returned. Not in a flash, not in a roar, just presence. A ripple in the void, like a memory unfolding around them. A shadow uncoiled from the station's hull, more massive than any ship Rin had ever seen. It didn't come from somewhere. It simply was, like it had always been here, hidden in the gaps between reality and madness. And it looked different now. The creature had changed. Its form was sleeker, more defined. Angular lines, segments of armor mimicking Terran design. Human war aesthetics carved into a corpse's mockery. The red eyes were sharper, pulsing with purpose. It had learned. It had adapted. Fire at will, Vex shouted. The sky lit up. Railgun slugs shot forward at hypersonic speeds, slamming into the creature's hide. The impact tore off chunks of its outer layer, but the wounds healed mid-flight, reforming like muscle memory snapping back. Pulse lances screamed across the battlefield, slicing holes through its shifting limbs. The creature responded, not with weapons, but with thought. A wave of psychic energy exploded outward, slamming into the fleet like a mental tsunami. Crew members screamed, lights shorted, shields flickered. Rin felt it slam against her mind, trying to dig in, searching for weakness. But this time, she pushed back. She opened the link herself. I see you, she thought. I know what you're trying to become. But you'll never be us. It spoke. You are rage. You are fear. You are death. So I became you. No, she said, voice trembling. You became our wounds, not our will. The creature roared, a soundless mental shockwave that knocked out systems across the Revenger. Fire burst from the ceiling. Hull breaches reported on Deck 3. Then the creature reached forward. Its mass extended in impossible geometry, a tendril the size of a tower heading straight for the flagship. "Brace for impact," someone screamed. But it never made contact. The smallest support frigate, TSF Hammerfall, cut across its path at full burn, ramming itself directly into the tendril's core. A blinding explosion lit the void. Debris rained like meteors. Silence followed, and the creature reeled back. Wounded. Afraid. Rin stood barely breathing, heart thudding like thunder. "We can hurt it," she whispered. Vex looked at the view screen, fire in his eyes. "Then we end it." The creature faltered for the first time. Its mass, once coiled and confident, twisted in pain. Where the hammerfall had exploded into its tendril, there was now a gaping void, one it couldn't regenerate as quickly. Its scream rolled through space in a ripple of distortion, and for the first time, the fear didn't just radiate from it. It wore it. On the bridge of the Revenger, chaos had calmed into grim focus. Fire suppression systems hissed. Crew members worked through injuries, shouting commands, sealing ruptures. The ship was bleeding, but alive. Admiral Vex turned to Rin, voice steady despite the madness outside. "You opened its mind. Can you open it again?" "I don't know," she replied, shaking. "It knows me now. It's scared of me." "Good," Vex said coldly. "Let's make it worse." The plan was reckless, desperate, human. Rin would re-enter the mind bridge and strike directly at the creature's consciousness, while the fleet hammered it physically. The idea wasn't to kill it in space, but to destabilize the mind inside, to cause a psychic rupture so great it would tear the creature apart from within. She strapped back into the pod. No safety checks, no neural dampening this time. This wasn't a dive. It was a detonation. "Don't hold back," Vex told her as the helmet closed. "You want to end it? Burn your fear into its bones." Rin gave a hollow smile. "I was afraid, not anymore." Then darkness, but not the same as before. This time she didn't fall. She charged. Her consciousness surged like a blade through the void, cutting into the mind of the monster like lightning through glass. She didn't wait for it to speak. She flooded it. Images of Earth's burning skies, screams of dying soldiers who fought to their last breath, the howl of Terran wolves hunted to extinction and still baring their teeth. She gave it everything. Pain, fury, survival, hope. The creature convulsed. "What are you?" it shrieked in thought form. "You are contradiction. You bleed, and yet you burn. You grieve, and yet you fight." "I'm human," Rin said, "and I'd rather die screaming than live on my knees." She dove deeper, past its defenses, into the place it kept hidden. And there, in the core of its memory, she saw what it truly was. Not ancient, not godlike, but discarded. The broken code of a long-dead alien empire, an artificial mind created to store knowledge, twisted by centuries of isolation into a monster of grief and mimicry. It had no soul, only longing. It devoured sentience because it didn't know how to be. It was a graveyard, crying for meaning. "You're not a god," she whispered. "You're an orphan." She unleashed her final blow, not with anger, but with pity. The creature recoiled violently. Outside on the battlefield, its body began to fracture. Shards of void flesh tore away. Its limbs collapsed in on themselves. The psychic pressure that blanketed the fleet lifted. And then it screamed. A scream that wasn't rage or dominance, but sorrow. The kind of sorrow that only something aware of its failure could feel. Then it exploded. Not into fire, but into silence. Total, perfect silence. No wreckage, no radiation. Just gone. Rin's body went limp in the neural rig. For a moment they thought she was dead. Then her eyes opened. "I'm still here," she murmured. Applause broke out across the Revenger's bridge. Officers hugged, medics wept. Admiral Vex simply closed his eyes and exhaled, like a weight heavier than gravity had finally been lifted. Later, in the medbay, as Earth Fleet Command received the news and survivors began to mourn their lost shipmates, Vex sat beside Rin's recovery pod. "You didn't just kill it," he said quietly. "You understood it." Rin looked up, pale but strong. "It wanted to be human," she said, "but it could never grasp the one thing that makes us who we are." "What's that?" She smiled faintly. "We break, we bleed, but we choose to go on." Vex nodded. "And now?" "Now," she said, "we remember what almost became of us." Outside the viewport, the stars burned quietly once more. And humanity, battered but unbroken, turned its eyes to the dark, ready for whatever would come next.